Seattle's history is a fascinating journey that takes us back to the 1870s, a pivotal period in the city's development. In this article, we'll explore what Seattle was like during this decade through the lens of historical photographs. These images offer an authentic and unvarnished view of Seattle's past, showing the city's evolution in various aspects. During the 1870s, Seattle's economy was intricately tied to its geographical location. Situated on the Puget Sound, the city emerged as a hub for trade and commerce. One of the defining economic drivers of this era was the timber industry. The waterfront was adorned with lumber mills, and the seemingly endless forests of the Pacific Northwest provided a steady supply of timber. Infrastructure development in Seattle during the 1870s was a reflection of its growth. The construction of bridges, in particular, marked a significant milestone in the city's transportation system. These bridges improved connectivity and accessibility, facilitating the movement of people and goods. Pioneer Square, a historic district still cherished today, began to take shape during this era. Seattle in this era was a freebooting and often relatively lawless town. Although it boasted newspapers and telephones, lynch law often prevailed. There were at least 4 deaths by lynching in 1882. Schools barely operated, and indoor plumbing was a rare novelty. In the low mudflats where much of the city was built, sewage was almost as likely to come in on the tide as to flow away. The streets were potholed to the point where there was at least one fatal drowning. In 1883, Chinese laborers played a key role in the first effort at digging the Montlake Cut to connect Lake Union's Portage Bay to Lake Washington's Union Bay. In 1885 to 1886, whites, sometimes in combination with Indians, complaining of overly cheap labor competition, drove the Chinese settlers from Seattle, Tacoma, and other Northwest cities. In an era during which the Washington Territory was one of the first parts of the U.S. to briefly allow women's suffrage, women played a significant part in civilizing Seattle. The first bathtub with plumbing was in 1870. In the 1880s, Seattle got its first streetcar and cable car, ferry service, a YMCA gymnasium, and the exclusive Rainier Club, and passed an ordinance requiring attached sewer lines for all new residences. It also began to develop a road system. The early Seattle era came to a stunning halt with the Great Seattle Fire of June 6, 1889. Started by a glue pot, the fire burned 29 city blocks, almost entirely wooden buildings. About 10 brick buildings also burned. It destroyed nearly the entire business district, all of the railroad terminals, and all but 4 of the wharves. Major fires like this were common in Washington that summer. The center of Ellensburg was destroyed by fire on July 4th, and downtown Spokane burned on August 4th. Thanks in part to credit arranged by Jacob Firth, Seattle rebuilt from the ashes with astounding rapidity. A new zoning code resulted in a downtown of brick and stone buildings rather than wood. In the single year after the fire, the city grew from 25,000 to 40,000 inhabitants, largely because of the enormous number of construction jobs suddenly created.